Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reacts where today we're going to be checking out 6 tracks off of an album from chapter 13 titled Saints and Sinners. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the album on the screen here. We have the art here, chapter 13, Saints and Sinners. Now this is an album from Marek Zahorik. Apparently he wrote the music on his guitar and then he hired some session musicians as well to help them out. And he's recorded the vocals himself. So I think Marek is doing, if I'm not mistaken, at the very least, they're doing the guitar and vocals. And they're the main member of their project. So I think that's cool. And we're going to listen through these tracks, starting with Saints from Sinners from start till finish. And we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, Saints and Sinners.
Time's up, even if you all deny that the time has come and I'm not ready to be gone, but time will tell.
Interesting modulation on their vocals.
We've got everything right here and still not use it well. Now it's our last shot. Deliver us from evil. We're going to hell.
Bit of tension there.
Will you do a good deed or just sit and watch me bleed? We're different but still the same. You pray seeking to absolve your blame. Words claiming virtue, a shallow game. The maker doesn't even know your name. What? This isn't going too well. We're surely
Interesting change with the groove here.
at least I got my own soul to sell. Time's up, even if you all deny that the time has come. And I'm not ready to be gone, but time will tell. We've got everything right here and still not use it well. Now it's all shot. We're going to hell.
Great use of harmonies there. I'm wondering if we're going to develop this part further, add something different on their repeat.
In dark corners we found our fame, trading morals for fleeting acclaim. Lost in a dance of saints and sinners, where whispers drown out the winners. Will you rise or fall from grace? In this game there's no safe place. We've got now only ourselves to blame, but the debt grows with each passing day. Time's up, even if all deny that the time has come. And I'm not ready to be gone, but time will tell. We've got everything right here and still not use it well. Now it's all shot. We're going to hell.
I like the reverbs on the keys. They're very sort of ethereal.
This darkness, a flicker of light, a chance to choose to make things right, to make things right.
Okay, so that was the first track off of the album, Saints and Sinners, from chapter 13. Now, what do I think this track is about? I think it's basically describing sort of like an end of days coming. We've got the ones who behave in a way where it's sort of like they feel like they're going to sort of go up to heaven, and the other as well, they've got their own, they're going to like end up losing their soul, I suppose, in the end. There are lines like, time's up, even if you'll deny that the time is coming, I'm not. Ready to be gone, but time will tell, got everything right here. And just, we know it's interesting, like there's lines like talking about like the whispers drown out the winners. Maybe commenting like on the actual like general, maybe it's like a social commentary on the way we behave, you know, like we make these decisions that are short-term gains, but actually end up sort of screwing ourselves. And we end up sort of like drowning out the people who are actually doing things well. But then at the end, when it talks about in this darkness, a flicker of light, a chance to choose to make things right, I kind of get the impression that maybe we're going on a journey with this album to talk about the current state of affairs being less than desirable because of the behavior of people and the sense of morality and all that. And the fact that maybe we're looking to change things as we go along. It'll be an interesting adventure, but I think outside of what the story is about, I appreciate the fact that we have that sort of like pop punky kind of rock aesthetic to the track. I feel like in terms of protest music, making this sort of social statements there, these acclamations, I think that's the right type of music to do it with. There was some interesting individual ideas and concepts here that I felt for the most part transferred well between each other. The mixture of different sort of distorted guitar, key, drum, and bass parts niched well in regards to the actual instrumental layers and the themes and compositions themselves. There are also little kind of bells and little kind of pretty sort of like almost orchestral elements there that sounded almost sort of like a spiritual awakening was occurred. It made it sort of seem a bit cinematic and theatrical, and I appreciate just the fact that we're trying to use some instruments all the time and others sometimes to sort of have a sense of tonal consistency whilst also indicating that there's more sort of to come. I think in general as well, it was quite a tight instrumental performance. I appreciated the clarity of the guitar tones and the octave chords and power chords we had, but also the different drum parts with the mixture of different quarters, 8/16 were fantastic. We navigated as well some interesting sort of tom fills and some sort of like tom-led grooves there. A mixture of different tempos for different certain sections there and time signatures. It was kind of interesting to go between those in a way where most of the time it worked. It can sometimes be awkward to try and sort of shove those different elements after each other, but for the most part, I think it worked. I just think with the vocals being the main focal point of this, I think that having Merrick narrate us through it was a smart decision, you know, them being the storyteller. I appreciated the kind of crowd kind of backing vocals, especially in the earlier parts, but as we went on through the track as well, they're creating a sense of dimensionality and width to it that added variation for the listener. And it just also gave a kind of a sense of warmth to a track where otherwise it's kind of sort of hot and heavy. I think structurally is intriguing as well. It seems more like it's less about trying to make a contemporary sort of like a rock track and more about providing an adventure. So it could well be through composed in future, but we'll see. In the meantime, we have Gone with Chapter 13 and Rob Davies. Incredibly tight mix here.
Life changed, it hit me fast. Suddenly I couldn't live in the past. The world was testing my trust. Some people simply didn't last. Had dreams once, now I got bills. Climbing up hills, strengthening my will. Friends turned cold, felt the chill. But I kept moving, pushing still. I had to grow up, you can take the rain.
Nice use of distortion there.
And had to feel the pains. After broken promises, trust was in chains. No, I'm not the one who blames. But there's still part of me that remains. Strange inside, it's been a ride. Lost innocence, but open my eyes. Those who left showed their
I'm assuming Rob Davies is the screams behind it.
weight on my back, no cheat code, just stay on track. Faces fade, memories stay. In the mirror, I see shades of gray. Through all the stress and also through the grind. Searching for peace of mind. World's not always so kind. In this chaos, I'm always trying to find the peace I left behind. The piece of me I left behind. Even if the sky itself gets low, I'll try to find my way home. Through the darkest times when hope is born. Even if I have to go it alone. Through the rain, through the pain. Afterwards I've never been the same. It's hard to find a place where I belong. Since the man I was is gone.
How are we going to vary things at this point?
Even if the sky itself is low, I'll try to find my way home. Through the darkest times when hope is born. Even if I have to go it alone. Through the rain, through the pain. Afterwards I've never been
Are we going to have a double chorus here?
where I belong. Since the man I was is gone. Even if the sky itself gets low, I'll try to find my way home. Through the darkest times when hope is born. Even if I have to go it alone. Through the rain, through the pain. Afterwards I've never been the same. It's hard to find a place where I belong. Since the man I was is gone.
I like that guitar riff though. The velocity of it is fantastic. Interesting filtering as well, like that guitar part there. It's just a really cool guitar riff. I like the melody of that. It's contrast to some of the power chord elements we heard so far. But this was track number 2, we're Gone, with Chapter 13 and Rob Davies. Now, what do I think this track was about? I think that maybe we're sort of discussing more that we have lost our sense of self along the way. We talk about your life changing, world testing our trust, head drinks once now I've got bills, etc. Friends. So basically it's about someone, I think, growing up, realizing that they have changed and trying to find their way home to who they used to be despite all the things that are blocking their pathway. That's effectively it. And so I think what works about this track, I suppose, is the sheer frustration that is communicated by the screamed kind of fryish parts from Rob Davies. It's just a visceral sound to it. It's kind of percussive in a weird way. It adds an extra bit of oomph to some of those lines and spoken parts that are double tracks. I just think in terms of communicating the mood that we might be feeling about it, it does very well. So it sounds nice and clean in the mix as well. I also think some of the decisions in regards to the actual main hook line itself, the anthemic state of those da-da-da-da-da-da-da, the octaves just niching on top of the power chord elements with the movement of the bass and drums, and the backing chorus with the backing vocals with the mains in the center. It's just a huge sound, and it almost sort of sounds defiant in the face of all the struggles and adversity that we're experiencing. And I think finally, the final thing I appreciate about this track, in addition to comments, because it's worth bearing in mind here, there are going to be comments that sound very similar to previous tracks because it is an album, and a lot of it's going to sound relatively similar if we're stylistically consistent with similar instruments and vocal styles. But it's just the actual the agility of it, the speed of it. It's just a nice contrast to the kind of the halftime parts in the hook, for example. So there's just that clear sort of like determination of this is this part, this is a different energy here. There are 3 different segments, they niche together. And I feel like in general, the actual structure of this track did cope better than with the previous one, where we were typically almost making it sort of more like sort of like a stage performance or something that would kind of go back almost sort of tempo rubato-ish. If I was to give feedback on this track in terms of constructive critique, I would say a couple of things. One is that with the interlude section, how we kind of had that build before that final double chorus, I feel like we could have potentially have done more with it, like maybe instantiated a new section to have as a twist, although bearing in mind that depends on the amount of extra context we want to provide. I still feel that it was fine to have it. You could have potentially had a guitar, like a lead guitar lead over it, over that sort of solo section there. But you didn't have to. It's just sort of my thoughts on it. I mean, additionally, I feel like the second time of the chorus, you could, that's that double outro chorus. You could have potentially have had that double outro chorus be like double time on the second time of it, kind of pushing forward, almost like we have a half time, and then we're kind of bringing up, speeding it up, walking towards where we need to go to, with that final outro guitar riff there kind of communicating with the speed that we're sort of running towards our home at that point. Ultimately, though, I'm satisfied with this track. I thought it was a good effort, and I feel like the collaboration between Chapter 13 and Rob Davies was well done. We've got track 3, Demons, with Chapter 13 and Aubrey Lorimo. Very sort of Rise Against-ish.
We all wear a mask, keep secrets inside. Living with the struggles we try to hide. The nights we
Oh, that's a pretty guitar harmony there.
racing fast, chasing memories of a broken past.
We all have a demon that can't see the light, facing down the choices that keep us up all night. We keep pushing forward in our same way, learning to live with the choices we made every day.
Okay, that gave me chills.
Stories we don't tell,
This is a great, I like that.
the dreams we lost along the way still linger there. In every silent moment, a silent scream. In every shattered piece, a distant dream.
We all have a demon that can't see the light, facing down the choices that keep us up all night. We keep pushing forward in our same way, learning to live with the choices we made every day.
Yeah, okay.
We all have our demons that can see the light, facing down the choices that keep us up all night.
We keep pushing forward in our same way, learning to live with the choices we made every day.
Sick. All right, I'm happier with this one. And we have that filtering going on at the end. Okay, so I think this is a really positive one. This track titled Demons, the third track for today, featuring Aubrey Lorimo, if I'm not mistaken. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. I think this track is about, it's just discussing the fact that we all have demons, issues that we are struggling with. That's something we can all sort of relate to. The stories we don't tell, the weight we bear, the dreams we've lost along the way. It's all sort of like stuff that I think is quite relatable, not just to people who this sounds like a lot of music that I grew up with in like the mid 2000s, but it's kind of continued throughout the 2010s and 2020s and stuff. It's just really cool. It's just cool to have these kind of stories where it's like, it's nice to have that. We keep pushing forward, be as it may, learning to live with the choices made every day. It's sort of like, it's not just saying, hey, we're struggling, it sucks. We're also saying, yeah, but we have to keep pushing forward in order to make the most of the world that we live in. So I appreciate how grounded that messaging in. One of the things I appreciate about this track is the sort of like the work that was done in regards to the vocals and with the hook sections. I think that Aubrey sang incredibly well. The words typically came through really clearly. The actual melodies sounded gorgeous. We niched ourselves really neatly on top of what Marek was doing. And it was just really effective. It was catchy as hell. The track was 2 minutes 44. You had a few verses, a few choruses. Marek held things strong in those verse sections, and we came together for that post kind of interlude thing, that middle eight coming back into it. It was just a really well fleshed out track that I think ticked all the boxes. But just Aubrey's actual technique, the tone of their voice suited this so well, the style, the attitude, etc. That just the expression was really lit. So well done. I think in addition, that's just the actual, again, the fact this track is 2 minutes 44, we had a lot going on in various elements there, a lot of that same sort of similar guitar, bass, and drums here, but I felt like that the real estate was better used this time. Like immediately we were coming in with like the pushing, the drums pulling us forward with like those eighth note kicks, dun, 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 you know, like the guitars with the octaves, the bass kind of nice and strong in the low end there. And then we get into that verse and like cuts out in this dynamic range, and then we're kind of pushing forward, and then there's like the hook, and it's just bouncing along at a fervent pace that's kind of keeps you constantly engaged. And as opposed to the previous track where I wondered if we could have potentially have extended that interlude to be a bit more sort of like substantial, here in a shorter form track, we have this wonderful guitar interplay between elements before that middle eight. And it's just such a cool shift from what we're discussing in that sort of chorus section there, just to allow the guitars and the rest of the instruments to have their time after that much sort of like story is kind of handed over. So I think that's cool too. And it's actually a really tight instrumental performance as well, which is the icing on the cake. I think also a final note in here is specifically the drum part. So like I've just quickly listened through the track, and there are a lot of these kind of like tom fills that are just fantastic transitional devices for the kit. And we've already got a lot of fun stuff going on with the different vocal harmonies, the melodies there in the verse and chorus, etc. The guitars are definitely there to play and sort of slam down, and the bass, but it's the drummer knowing they can not only do the 8ths and 16ths, etc., like the main sort of cymbal grooves and stuff, they also are comfortable across the kit, and they just keep it really exciting. And so I think this is probably my favorite track off of the album so far, primarily because I feel like it's not just done the vocals quite well, and it's not just done the instrumental parts quite well, structurally just very effective, and in general just a really great sort of, it's a great place to be at the halfway point. Because we've got track number 4, Influencer.
She's got 1,000 selfies on her phone and perfect angles, never a frown show. Living life through an Instagram lens, filters and hashtags, pretending it's trends. She thinks everyone obsessed with her feed, but it's just algorithms that's the key. Counting likes like they're diamonds in hand. In her world, she's the queen of the land. Oh, influencer, what a show! Don't you know it's all for show? Likes and comments, validation galore, but reality's not king at your door. Oh, influencer, what a show! Don't you know it's all for show? Likes and comments, validation galore, but reality's not king at your door.
Like, I feel like messaging like this is important more than ever. You know, there's some stuff in this album so far which I think people need to hear.
She posts every meal and every pose, product placements from head to toes. Life's a highlight reel every day, but behind the screen it's all in disarray. She believes she's changing lives with each post.
And going up in our range there, nice work.
Content adds most, lost in the sea of followers, dreams in her bubble, nothing's as it seems. Oh, influencer, what a ride, living life with filters applied, caught in a loop of likes and shares. Is anyone real out there? Oh, influencer, what a ride, living life with filters applied, caught in a loop of likes and shares. Is anyone real out there? Hello, sweeties, we just hit a milestone, 500 subscribers. Thank you all for your amazing support. Hey everyone, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing content. Every day is a brand new post.
I like that. You could have potentially have had things kind of even go down a little bit, kind of maybe had it filtered to kind of seem like the music was going through like a radio.
Every day is a brand new post.
So what are we going to do for the rest of this? Okay, so that was track number 4 for today, Influencer. So what do we think Influencer is about? I feel like for most people who are familiar with like the internet, you'll be, I mean, technically I suppose I am a very minor influencer. You know, there are people who like, they live stream or they do videos, and it's all just a kind of an image-based thing for a lot of these people where like they're trying to keep up the facade of being successful when in reality their world is falling apart. And I think that that's a story which a lot of people be able to relate to. A lot of people, especially younger generations, they want to be influencers. And I don't blame them. Like the dream is being sold and people are buying. And I just think that it's also good to have a counter argument for it in the shape of tracks like these. And I think that what I appreciate is the variety of different vocal melodies and harmonies that we have here. And I also enjoyed when we went down and kind of imitated the influencer. I thought that just in regard to the sort of aesthetic there, kind of memeing on the whole like and subscribe kind of thing was just smart there. Yeah, so there's a lot of thought put into that, and we are comfortable with the notes we're hitting as well as how we're voicing them and the words are coming through clearly, so it's good. I think in general, something to point out is just at the end of the track, actually, when you had the guitars on one side and then you had the guitars coming on the other, it's just little things like that that dictate that we do really care about our sort of post-production, and we are comfortable creating a world for us, the listener, to sort of put themselves in, and we're thinking about how tracks develop in that tense as well. So I think that there's just a lot to enjoy in terms of the leveling of things, EQing, filtering, etc., but also just the sound design of it. I mean, I'm not, there have been occasions where I've sort of been like, are those absolutely where they need to be in terms of leveling? But like for the most part, it's absolutely incredible. And I appreciate the polish there. And I also think finally, it's the fact that we actually had a guitar soloish kind of element there. We have a lot of these kind of octave chord parts as well as the bass and drums there. We're comfortable supporting the vocals with the rhythm guitars. But just having a sort of like a bluesy kind of lick before going in that final part, I feel like we could have potentially have continued that lead, but at the same time, if we simply wanted it to sort of make a statement of some kind, I think that's totally fine too from a creative perspective. I'm not necessarily sure what that statement was, but either way, I think it's kind of dope and it sounded cool. Maybe you're more than filters and likes, take off the mask and live your life. Maybe we're trying to insinuate that after playing those kind of guitarists, we decided to kind of let loose with a solo and that was our true self. I'm not sure, but anyway, very cool. Ultimately happy with this track. I feel like it's another great addition to this album, and it'll be cool to hear what happens next. So this is track 11, titled Heaven. Which is very different.
Once we were inseparable, love like a fire. Now we're drifting apart, losing desire. I tried to build us a world so divine, but the cracks are showing, love's on the line. I gave you the stars, the moon and the sky, but nothing I do seems to keep us alive. I promised you heaven, tried to make it real. Now we're lost in this loop. How do you feel? We've got a problem. I know it's been tough.
Great development there.
Give it up, and it's tearing me up. No matter what I do, it's still not enough. I'll bring you heaven, but you call my bluff.
I like that we're not raising at this point.
The distance in your weary eyes. Love's turning cold under stormy skies. I build us the castle, a place to call home, but you wander the halls, feeling alone.
Excellent transition there.
Baby, you'll give it up, and it's tearing me up. No matter what I do, it's still not enough. I'll bring you heaven, but you call my bluff. Can we find our way back to the start? Heal the wounds, mend the broken parts. I'm reaching out, don't let us fade. In this heaven I made, let's love in vain. We've got our problems, I know it's been tough. Baby, you're giving up, and it's tearing me up. No matter what I do,
I like that fill transition there.
I'll bring you heaven, but you call my bluff. In this heaven I made, I see your face. A love that's sleeping, leaving empty space. I'll fight for us through storm and strife. I'll bring you heaven to save our lives.
This is another really special track. Interesting choice there. The little squeal on that steel string guitar was a little bit sharp for my tastes, but literally everything else was fantastic. I'm really happy with this one. So this was Heaven from chapter 13. This was number 11 on this album. So what do I think this track is about? I think it's about someone looking at the partner, the person they're with that they love, and realizing that they just do not feel the same way about them. And they're trying to figure out where things went wrong, how to come back from that, sort of how to approach fixing it, you know, with the understanding that it's just, we're just not sure what to do. It's a sense of helplessness, you know. And this heaven I made, I see your face, a love that's slipping, leaving empty space. I'll fight for us through storm and strife. I'll bring you heaven to save our life. I think that I'll bring you heaven to save our life is a beautiful line. There are some really interesting lyrics within this album, and I enjoy the way they've been put forward. I think part of what makes this track work is how sort of soulful Merrick is. They really sound like they're selling and feeling every word that they put here. There's a sense of angst and sort of like trepidation, even sort of like a doubt that's reflected in some of these parts there, which seems very sort of like real. And you kind of need that in a song like this where you're trying to reach out or sort of create that atmosphere, that environment of that. So I think that's really cool. So I think from starters, the actual vocals seem authentic. They're not just well sung, but it's also the actual urgency of it is it's also like a very sort of delicate and vulnerable performance where you can kind of imagine someone singing this to their partner. So they managed to find a really important equilibrium there. That's just great. I mean, I think secondly, it's the addition and development of the pieces we go along. We don't have everything at once. We start with the guitars by themselves, double tracked, and we add vocals, and as we go forward, we add the bass. And the bass just comes in, it's got such rotund sort of like presence in the mix, but it's so full of life, and we don't allow the drums to come in until a bit later. And that's something that's really special because it's unexpected. Sometimes you'll have songs where you kind of rush into that next ingredient, that next sort of perspective, but we don't here. They let it build steadily. You are kind of lost in maybe feeling what to do next, and then bam, the drums come in. It gets heavy, huge, sounding with the distorted guitars and everything, has a vivacious glow to it, and then the keys come in later on the piano to sort of illustrate things further, and just the development structurally is really impressive. I did like the track's ending, the way it kind of went out like that with a natural bell curve. I think finally it's just the way that it doesn't overcomplicate the instrumental backing behind it. I think here the vocals needed to be the focal point. I think if you tried to do too much with another lead element, it would have maybe distracted from the fact that this is Merrick on their own trying to reach out to that person. And I think that was a smart decision here. When you've got more of a broader theme, you can probably have different lead instruments here, but if it's a person alone with their guitar, you've already got other instruments coming in. It's often just best to let them be the main focal point and allow that to be the basis. So smart move in regards to the actual attribution of things there. If I was to say any sort of like constructive critique, I'll feedback. I just feel like I'm not sure how attached we were to that last part where there was that kind of squeak on that acoustic guitar, that steel string. I'm wondering if we could have potentially have done it again. But then if we'd done the track in a single take and that was like the last part, totally respect it. It's just me sort of like speaking my mind on that. Everything else is fantastic. And then finally, we have track number 15 for ourselves today, Gates of Hell. It's a heavy one.
I'm walking my own bed, no shepherd, no flock. Alone off in the dark, there's no ticking of the clock. Ain't no precious words gonna change my soul. I've got my own conscience, I'm the one in control. They said I'm lost, but I find my own way. No holy book's gonna tell me how to pray. I don't need no savior, I save myself. And if I'm wrong, gotta face the flames. No cry for the help. Gates of hell, I'm standing tall. No fear in my heart.
Oh, quarter note.
I won't bow down, won't kneel and plead. My soul's my own, that's all I need. The gates of hell, I break your chains. No damnation can hold my reign. I walk my path, I'll write my fate. If hell's my end, then open the gate. They said I'm dead, but I live free. No holy laws, no one's judging me. I've seen the temples, I've heard the lies. No righteous mask can hide the devil's eyes. I'm a rebel with a cause, my own destiny. A voice for the voiceless, a mind that's free. You preach salvation, but I seek control. I'll take my chances, let the dice roll. The gates of hell, I'm standing tall. No fear in my heart, I'll take the
It's very vocal oriented, this one, isn't it?
my soul's my own, that's all I need. The gates of hell, I break your chains. No damnation can hold my reign. I walk my path, I'll write my fate. If hell's my end, then open the gate.
Cool, we're doing something different.
No more lies, no more deceit. I'll walk my way, feel the ground beneath. The fire may burn, but I'll stay true to my own heart, to what I knew.
Fantastic.
Gates of hell, I'm standing
Yay, we had an extended lead section. Nice.
before. I won't bow down, won't kneel and plead. My soul's my own, that's all I need. The gates of hell, I'll break your chains. No damnation can hold my reign. I'll walk my path, I'll write my fate. If hell's my end, then open the gate. So let the preachers preach, let the faithful pray. Let the preachers preach, let the faithful.
And just tremendous shred, man. It's kind of crazy that we're at the second halfway point, though.
So let the preachers preach, let the faithful.
Good.
So let the preachers preach, let the faithful pray.
Really fascinating into this, eh? I mean, I suppose we got all the leads I was looking for at the end of the album, right? Because this was Gates of Hell, track number 15, I suppose. This song is about someone who is just going to face the adversity going through the gates of hell, all the different things that they've spoken about throughout the album. They are not going to take any crap from anyone. They're simply going to live their own life and speak their own truth. They're a rebel with their cause, my own destiny, a voice for a voiceless, a mind that's free. You preach salvation. So I think they're sort of more specifically kind of like directing this at religious people or people who tell them how to act. You preach salvation, but I see control. I'll take my chances, let the dice roll. Cool. I get it. They're gonna roll a dice, and it's just such a phenomenal rock and roll piece. In part because of the soloing at the end. Now, I'm not super sold with the way that it was structured at the end because I couldn't figure out why we were structuring it like that. It was very sort of like freeform and organic, which I appreciated. I just couldn't find the context for why we were having those pauses and sun like pushes forward and stuff like that. I suppose in a way you could probably argue, focusing purely on the structure itself, that simply for a lot of the track in the early stages, maybe we were trying to sort of like fit within the box of what we needed to do compositionally in a way which made sense in regards to the genre and is what we wanted to do. But then at the end, it was like, we're just letting loose on that guitar, man. We're letting loose with that bluesy pentatonics, the hammer-ons and pull-offs, the big bends and everything like that. Phenomenal pace to it as well. Great articulation of those notes within the scales and modes. And just we smashed it. And this is kind of what I've been wanting this for a lot of this album, is to have more lead guitar parts because I could tell they could play. And so I'm glad that we had that from Merrick. I think in the last track like this with 5 minutes of real estate, having a guitar solo was almost a given considering the sort of like the capacity for it. But it was just that we did, and we didn't just have one. We allowed ourselves to have a little sort of middle one, and then we kind of like went full bore near the end, where like it was just the actual way it was played was phenomenal. But it was also the fact that we had double kicks on the drum kit, and the actual way, the speed and sort of propensity, like the velocity of it was cool as well, and the tightness of the grooves in the kit as well. The way that those bass drums sort of like they pummeled the mix and sort of like cut the limiter a little bit. But it's just the actual ferocity of it, the no F's given kind of aesthetic and vibe that the vocals were talking about was actually provided to the music through that. So I think that in terms of the actual attitude, the chord choices, the scale shapes and the soloing and the actual backing itself, especially the heaviness of the guitar tone at the start of the track as well, the actual production, the guitar tone is so furious. And I wasn't always sort of like sure about how things were going to be balanced in that regard because sometimes things seem like they're kind of being pushed a little bit. Other times they sound perfectly sort of like level. It was heavy and it was just meant to sort of sound kind of rough and ready and kind of ready to sort of throw down, and they did that. So I think I appreciated the guitar soloing and the way that they played things there. I also think things were handled really neatly in regard to the structuring of the piece and the way we made the most of the 5 minutes of real estate there, having more of it sort of like vocal oriented, and then the second half be more sort of instrumental kind of focused. I thought that was dope. And then finally, it's just simply that we finished this track on an outro where it seems kind of complete. Almost like at the start, there was a bit of sort of like anxiety about how things were going to go with the sinners and the saints and everything like that. And at this point, we're just saying, nope, whatever happens, we're going to be true to ourselves. We're putting our foot down, getting rid of all the BS. And I think that's a nice way to finish this album. So well done. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this album from an act named Chapter 13 titled Saints and Sinners. Now, what do I think this album is about? I think this is exploring our morality, our humanity. This is Merrick's sort of interpretation of it, as well as the people that they collabed with, such as Rob Davies, Aubrey Larimo, and other people. I think there are a lot of different... So I've already had little mini conclusions for each of the 6 tracks. So if you want to hear my thoughts on each of those tracks, you want to go check those out, but individually. But overall, it's our journey from understanding the world that we're in, all the different distractions, all the complexities, all the chaos, all the drama and tensions and stressors, even with tracks like ourselves, all our demons, and just it's basically trying to get to a point where we feel okay with ourselves, to a point where we're kind of sticking both middle fingers up and saying we're going to live how we want, make the most of life, and not be sort of judged or held down by anyone. So I think that's the journey we go on with this album. And then in terms of overall comments about what I appreciated about it, I think what was really cool about this album is that we were able to fully sort of like approach vocals within the genre from a way that made stylistic sense, but also impressed me personally. I just think it was not only that that Merritt could sing quite well and that they got the words through clearly and that the lyrics made sense with the subject matter and that the vocal style matched, whether it was like the kind of chants or the main sort of like clean vocals or whatever. It's also the fact that we had collaborators who either did kind of like the growly stuff like Rob Davies, where that was stupid heavy, with like the kind of screams there, or Aubrey, where those like lady vocalists there, and they just harmonized really wonderfully on top. There was a fantastic sort of like coloration to it, a shimmer and sheen with really beautiful harmonies in upper layer, in that upper octave. So I think in general, the vocals, the storytelling here was handled really neatly. It was little things as well, like little skits like talking about the like and subscribe stuff and influencer. It's just the attention to detail here is very strong. I think also the fact that we didn't overcomplicate the actual instrumental parts themselves. I think that with these tracks being 2 to 4 minutes and with Heavy Gates of Hell being 5, it was rock and roll punk, that sort of like pop punk kind of stuff there. The guitars, they were either cleans or they were distorted. You had rhythms, arpeggios, you had some lead elements here with bluesy and pentatonics on those. You had the guitars playing exactly what they needed to. The tones were representative of the genre, made a lot of sense with it texturally and tonally. And I think in addition to that, it was just the drums were fantastic. A lot of different interesting sort of tom fills and kick and snare and cymbal patterns there. And we typically played in the way which made sense both with like the subject matter and, you know, like we matched the rhythm parts of the guitars, the flows there. We had great sort of tempos. The tempo was set well, and we just explored the kit quite. It was very competent in that regard. And then the keys occasionally, as well as some other elements there, simply for a bit of resonance in the mid range, but we didn't need too much. We didn't overcomplicate it. It was relatively accessible and palatable and predictable, but it was what we did with those individual riffs, those chord progressions, those bass lines, and those drum parts, etc., that made it special. The way we sort of fleshed those out across the album. Finally, I think it was like the sheer identity per track of it. You know, we typically had a specific way of blending the instruments together where the transitions structurally were fantastic. But it was kind of having an overall sense of angst and trepidation and also a tenacity in a sense with the themes, with the power chord elements there, with the heaviness of the tones there, things getting quiet when we need to, almost a theatrical element, Saints and Sinners, like knowing how to shape each piece from a performance and a composition perspective to suit the mood of the lyrics, whilst also kind of evoking a clear sense of the overall mood, which is pushing back, aggression, sort of like not wanting to be sort of like held down by anyone. Those two things were simultaneously communicated throughout this, and I feel like that's a difficult thing to do well, but they managed to handle that here. In terms of any sort of like constructive criticism or sort of like feedback across the album in general, I think things were typically done very, very well. There were like little comments I made about structural components that I might personally have done differently, but I still understand most of why we did those things, and I thought it was really cool. And this is obviously this is their album, but it's just in terms of just being a reviewer. I feel like the production was good. There were some parts where it seemed like things were a little bit too pushed in the mastering chain or the mix bus. Like it almost seemed like the bass drums were overwhelming certain components of it. But it's also testament to just the fact we wanted a loud mix, and that's fine. You can still hear the guitars, bass drums, and vocals and all that for the most part. And I feel that overall, the genre was well represented. I feel like there's a good fusion of different elements. And I think that most importantly, you heard Marek and you heard the music. So thank you for watching my review of this album from an act named Chapter 13 titled Saints and Sinners, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via their various social medias and their Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe. Please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as you need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.